Welcome to the Creative Plan Podcast Network. Join us as we share our favorite RPGs, one-shot games, tabletop games, reviews of items, and convention panels, and other exciting things that we run into from time to time. Sit back and enjoy the show.
Hi, this is Kelly, aka Trixie from Ragnarok and Roll, a Sign to Ragnarok story, and Tilda Wimblewick from D&D Journey of the 5th Edition. First off, I would just like to say thank you to everyone for listening to our varied adventures, as well as for rating us on iTunes and rpgpodcast.com. If you haven't rated us yet, we would greatly appreciate it if you could. And if you're looking for more ways to support our efforts, we are now on Patreon, a great site where you can help us continue making more podcasts, as well as some special surprises for our patrons. If you can, please look us up at www.patreon.com/cppn. Every little bit helps. And again, thank you for listening.
This panel is Cosplay for Everybody and Everybody. And I'll go ahead and let our panelists introduce themselves, starting with Jared on the end. Jared first.
Yes. Hello. My name is Jared Pike, and I am Mr. Pike from the Peculiar Pikes. My wife, Kristen, is upstairs in the MacGyver panel. And I'm probably the newest to cosplay in this group, but I love it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Sorry, paparazzi.
Your fans walking past.
No. Wendy, speak up. Hi, I am Wendy Tracus, and I've been costuming for, I did the math, for 24 years now. On again, off again. I still hate to sew, but I do it anyway.
Hello, my name is Madame Askew, and I've been putting on funny clothes all my life. I have no desire to stop doing that. My grandmama enabled me with a box of funny clothes from Goodwill when I was wee, and I've been sewing and making my own costumes for more than 20 years. We'll just leave it at that number.
Hello, I'm Kelly Springer. I too have been costuming for well over 20 years. But cosplaying the last 10, I would say. I have a background in theater, but I've always loved to play dress up myself. Ever since I was a little kid, I often made my own costumes, even before I taught myself to sew. So that's me.
And I'm Laura Fulmer, also known as the Grandulite. My husband is upstairs in the MacGyver panel, and I've been costuming for most of my life for me and for my family. I've got 3 kids that some of you may have seen about later on. So.
And I just realized it. Never mind.
It's all right. No one's judging on the math. So,
All right, so let's start with, what do you look for, if anything, in a costume to accommodate for your body type?
question.
I'll start.
Yeah.
I typically can't find things on the rack. So I look for accessories that I can purchase maybe, but I look for patterns that I can alter to fit my body type and stuff. So some promotional patterns lend themselves a little easier to larger body types, but then others need a whole lot more work. So I pretty much try to adapt ones that are designed more for larger types.
Well,
So that's what
panel, find out who is running it. That's who had the cable last.
I can get some things off the rack, so pants mostly. That's about it.
Nope.
Yeah.
No, that's
And then the more I get into costuming and other things, I find out interesting things like I'm short-waisted.
Okay.
That's cute. You know.
I'm short-waisted too, and I found out because of her.
Yeah, like that's, you know, and like, hey, like this doesn't fit right. Why does my vest not? And there's a gap between my, well, maybe you're short-waisted. What does that mean? Well, I'm going to have to go look that up. And, oh, let's take the measurements. Yeah, that's it. So, you know, and finding those things out. And then also, like, you know, they have these male, you know, body types and stuff, and you're like, that doesn't work for me as somebody with an extra chromosome and, you know, other things. It's like, I don't fit into this square hole because I'm a round peg. And, you know, and so finding those things, oftentimes you just have to make those things or alter the things that you find on the rack.
Yeah, and like I said, I avoid sewing when I can. So I do thrift and look for things on the rack and that I can modify. So if it doesn't look great, I mean, if it's larger, if there's enough fabric, it can be modified with some effort. I actually when I actually sew with patterns and fabrics, if I spend a goodly amount of money on the fabric, chances are it's not going to be because I get ruining it. So yeah, buying stuff. Thrift stores are really great for me, for the way that I put costumes together, because I can usually find stuff that's probably not quite my size, maybe a little bigger, maybe doesn't quite fit my shape, that I can change and add to or modify in some way. That's how I do it.
So I look for what I call inclusive sizing when I'm looking at patterns, because I am short, I am a K cup, I have a little waist for my figure, I have narrow shoulders, I'm long-waisted, so from here to here, it's like I'm 5'8", and then I have my legs, which are stumpy, and I've had a love-hate relationship with all my life. So I tend to sew for myself on purpose, because when I got into costuming, I could not find things that fit my body type. But when I am shopping, I look for stretch. I look for something that's stretchy here and has a waist. Otherwise, I look like I'm smuggling bowling balls, which is a look I'm avoiding. And
Don't forget uniboob.
Uniboob is a thing that happens. So I look for a lot of stretch. And I also look for separates. Because I'm long-waisted and have short legs, dresses are a challenge. Either they're wildly shorter than I want with my runty little legs, or they're so long I'm like, don't mind me, I tripped over my dress. I'm dead back here from my hems. So I'm terrible at altering items I buy in thrift stores. It's like a weird hole I have in my creative process. So I try and get things that fit into a niche, and which is why I cheat by sewing. That might not seem like cheating to you, but to me it does, because I watch my friends like Wendy do amazing things with what they've thrifted. I'm like, how? I don't know how you did that. It's magic, black magic. Did you sell your soul at a crossroads? So maybe that answered the question.
But I'm kind of on the same page with Wendy. I do a lot of thrift store shopping because, I mean, when you're buying for 5 people, that ends up costing a lot. Even if you're making it yourself, it ends up costing a lot. So, yeah, we do a lot of thrift store shopping. And I have one daughter who is the body type that everything is made for. but no one else in my family has that luxury. My husband has really long arms, so if he buys a shirt that fits him in the torso, the sleeves only go to here. So yeah, Jerry has that problem.
Yeah, this one doesn't. That's okay. But yes, generally speaking, oh, this fits nice, and then it's like you're like, I can roll these sleeves. That's fine. We can roll these sleeves. You know.
I'll just pretend they're a lot longer than they are and roll them up.
So I do a lot of buying from thrift stores.
My husband does not cosplay very often, but I have gotten him to dress up periodically. We've settled on a kilt for the most part, but he is so long-waisted that we have, I think, a 2-inch difference between my and his, pants.
He's so much taller.
Yeah, he's torso boy.
He's
It is all torso. He gets
the same way.
He gets 2X shirts just for the length.
So you can cover his tummy.
Yeah.
And my husband's the same way. He's very long-waisted. And so when we made him vests, we have to add quite a bit to the length just so that they would fit him and not like completely ride up because he's all waist.
We buy things 2 or 3 sizes too big so they'll fit in the arms and then we just dart.
Yep.
Yeah. So, shirts don't fit him the same way because if I buy it for length, it's way too big.
Well,
chest.
I think we've illustrated the problem with pre-made anything is it's all for specific
Body type.
weird average body type and nobody's
My
average.
20-year-old is 5'3" and a size 6. That's who it's made.
Yep.
The generic, that's anything but generic because no few
puppies.
people.
Big and tall is a lie.
Yeah,
Big and tall is a lie. That's true.
Yes, it is.
you know, and for me, I carry all my weight in my waist, you know, and on my hips, and so it's like if I put it on, like, okay, it fits nice up top and everything, and then I get to my belly, and it's like,
And you can't button
well,
anymore.
pop buttons out, you know, like.
Yeah.
So okay, 2X, but then I'm off my shoulder, and I'm not, you know, and so it's
Fit
like
right
it doesn't
up here.
fit. Yeah.
Raglan instead of on your shoulder. Well, this is the lie, as you say, of big and tall. Standard patterns are graded, and they grade the length the same way they grade the width. And so if you are shorty like me, but wide, I'm especially wide one place in my body. It's my area that's challenging. And
Fast tracks the planet.
yes, they're very fast. And they tell their own jokes at this point, and they have their own diplomatic corps. It's amazing. But everything's graded, so they assume if you're wide this way, you must also be tall. And so that's a lie, of course. At the same degree as we saw for Dirk's sleeves and your sleeves, if your arms are this long, you must be this wide. But if you're this narrow, you must have T-Rex arms. So grading is sort of full of lies and calumny. We don't like it. So.
And certainly, like, you and I actually have the same size, but we're dramatically different. I'm taller than her, but she's long-waisted. I'm short-waisted. So nothing we could never really share anything except an overcoat.
We can
But an
do that.
overcoat we can share.
Although she lent me her overcoat and the sleeves go past my fingertips. So I have to roll them up.
But it's
Better
like
too much than too little.
she has the narrow back and I'm built like a linebacker.
I mean,
A very sexy linebacker.
I feel like you have really solid, good, broad
I think
shoulders.
Kelly and I could share. I could steal stuff out of
Yeah.
You two could. I've measured you both.
I know the truth. She actually has a single file full of everybody's measurements.
That's true.
It's like a witch book, you know. Oh, now I have a character from your story.
Oh, good. No, I do have a spreadsheet of all of my clients' measurements together. It is my little secret.
Yes, because I hate making corsets, so I
So,
certainly
what steps do you think we could take to make cosplay more inclusive for different body types?
Oh, that's a good question. So I like to have panels like these where we talk about it. I also think it's very important to have honest conversations and just represent and be visible. So sometimes merely by being that really obnoxious extrovert that I am, who's willing to go out and like make a spectacle, people are like, look at Madame Askew, she's short, stumpy legs, very large, and apparently doesn't care.
and she's still out there cosplaying, having a good
Looking
time.
fabulous.
And
Yes.
and hopefully somebody can also go, you know what? That looks like fun. Yeah, I don't have
do
the
that.
body type that Hollywood wants, but I can do that too. I can have fun.
Well, and I think you do that too.
I do that too, yes.
Because you too are going out and being bold and wearing really beautiful clothes that you fit gorgeously, very boldly, representing taller lady who can reach things.
And having a taller husband who can reach the other things.
I collect tall people. That's what I do.
What?
I'm the shortest person on this
I'm
panel.
only 5'5". Don't.
Yes.
Hey,
You're
I
taller
am-
than me.
I still have to
I
ask
too
for
am
help.
5'5".
You're all taller.
Yeah, you know.
I'm 6'6".
You can reach all.
He's
Yeah,
taller,
he can
he's
reach all
taller
of
than
us.
Derek, so
That's
you
true.
would.
That's true.
My wife is 5 foot.
That's adorable. Little step stools in every room.
Yes, there are.
I'm
And she
learning.
doesn't
I
use
have,
any
I
of
have
them.
one.
Why? She has you.
Honey,
Pretty
can you
much.
get this down for me?
I'm resting my eyes, sweetheart.
So I derailed a little bit, but
Yes.
how are ways we can improve?
I think just making it more known on how to, giving those helpful tidbits of where to find those things. You know, Goodwill and Savers and other thrift stores get you so far, but then knowing how to take things in, or having that sewing skill and not being afraid to try something.
Or even, and I've had several people just say, you know, I go to the thrift store, but I really don't know how to look for something, because you wind up with like just a rack full of long sleeve shirts, for example. Let's say you're looking for something for Victorian something, and it's the whole idea is for me, I go through and I look for colors and fabrics that I know I'm going to be comfortable in, and then I go through whatever I kind of see on the rack at that point. And then if there's something there, I'll pull it, try it, and it could be something that I wouldn't have thought of, like a lace top or something, and I want to try it.
Actually, I'm really long-waisted too. And when I go to the thrift stores, I stand back and I look at the bottom.
Yep, the length, yeah.
The ones that are hanging down
The
longer.
length of the shirt is important, because a lot of times they're cut really, really short. And even I'm short-waisted, and even that, and you know, well, I'm also endowed, and so women's shirts a lot of times will ride up, and they'll look fine from here to here, and then nobody wants to see. Yeah,
I don't want that draft.
I know
necessarily.
it gets
Is it
chilly.
cold in
Yeah.
Yeah, my belly button has not seen the light of day in like 35 years, and it's very happy with that temperature.
Well, for guys, if you haven't thought about it, shirt stays. Shirt stays are your friend.
Oh.
Actually do it. Just
Define shirt stays.
go
like
by
a
a
garter.
garter. It's a clip with some elastic, and it runs up to your shirt.
From your sock?
From your sock.
Hold your
Clip
sock
it
up
there.
and
Hold your
it
sock
down.
up, and then you clip it on the tail of your shirt, and just run it up both sides, and then it'll hold your shirt in.
And it'll keep your socks up.
And it'll keep your socks up. On top of that, I found out from the military, like, they put, and I was looking at one of my buddies, like, dude, you're wearing a garter? And he's like, that's not what it is.
It's
a shirt stay.
It's a shirt stay, and this is how you make it, and it's elastic. And I was like, really? And now I'm like, I love them.
I sometimes make the grand arbiter wear them.
And it just helps with that because of finding that length of a shirt and making sure it's period correct and not, a modern collar or whatever it needs to be.
But it's going down the sides of the
It's
legs?
going down my outer sides.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't have one on today because I'm wearing a more modern shirt that's for tall guys. So it still pops buttons.
I knew about shirt stays, but I wasn't thinking about it. That would work for the slightly shorter women's shirts too, especially if you had a skirt over it that was a little high in the waist, so that it would cover that up, and then you wouldn't have to worry about it untucking or pulling out. And I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
I was given a couple.
Women's garters go just down.
I was given a couple of dresses years ago, and they came down your knees, but they didn't want to stay down.
Oh,
they were right up because they were older. They were used. So I did. I used black elastic up from the top of the dress down to the top of my boots, and it kept my boots up, my dress down. I could dance and not worry about it.
I would wore suspenders on a skirt once because it was a 2-level, low, high, low, and it was just way too big in the waist, and if pleating it gave it the wrong
shape.
It just made it, and it didn't work with so I wore suspenders underneath the bodice to hold up the skirt without. Because normally, if like on the skirt that I'm wearing right now, I could just put more pleats in the back, but that wouldn't work for this because it was a bustled skirt. That was, it would be exposed because it's a very short bodice too. So to keep everything in place, I wore suspenders.
Nice.
That helps.
So I've actually encountered the problem, depending on the skirt shape and maybe whether it's an elastic as opposed to one that just fastens around and some of them, they fall down because I'm kind of falling down there, and some of them they go, oh no, I'm just gonna queen
right under the
and
they become an empire waist without
empire waist, and you get the nice flowing train effect in back. But you don't really necessarily want that.
I didn't mean to show my knees.
Well, sometimes that has to do with how the side seams and the hip ratio is on the skirt to waist. Sometimes it's merely a fabric friction thing. There's this wonderful stuff if you're not sensitive, your skin is not sensitive, fashion tape. You can tape your clothes in place if they're moving. Or there's this other stuff called sock glue that people use, for this really, here's a lie that I'm going to debunk for you. Those really tall stockings that all the people wear, they're all the way up to their thighs, and they're like, ha ha ha, look at me running around, my stockings never fall, la la la, not that higher, mid right, and they're like,
you've got some of those too, and they don't stay up.
Right, they do not stay up on anyone. The trick is sock glue. You roll it on, and it adheres your stockings. It's like a repositionable adhesive that will wash off. It was invented in Japan, because that's how they roll. And it can be more comfortable than wearing a garter belt. Also, it signals something different, right? Like exposing your garter belt, even though it's actually covering up slightly more skin, is considered slightly more risque. So usually we want to tuck the garter belts away, unless that's the look we're going for. And so sock glue makes it look more like I'm just a ingenue with long stockings, and I'm fine, and I'm just springing around, and they won't fall by magic. So you can also glue things in place. Sometimes It's about underpinnings. Obviously, I'm very big on foundation garments because I wear a lot of vintage and historical fashion. And so for me, none of those fashions, regardless of body shape, ooh, I have a tangent I could go on. Regardless of body shape, you need underpinnings. So this is my tangent. You can roll me back in because I'm first. Many years ago, I wanted to make a Kranich gown. Does anyone know what that is? So this beautiful medieval gown that all these redheads in Germany wore, and lots of paintings of them, and I'm a redhead. So in my 20s, I was like, ooh, I want to wear the redhead girl German gown. That sounds really fun. But because I'm a type A person who likes to do research, I went on to a message board in the early days of the internet, and I typed up my little question, what sort of underpinnings do they wear under the Kranich gown? Because I knew even then that no clothes of a historic nature just are worn without underpinnings. You can tell me there's only a shift under there, still an underpinning. You could tell me there's a pair of stays or petticoats, but there's something. They're not just starkers under that gown. Because the gowns are made out of velvets and silks and they'll get dirty, so there's something under there. And also in the paintings, there are no body wrinkles. So no matter your body size, if you're not wearing underpinnings, there are body wrinkles when you move. Thin, not thin, in between, doesn't matter. Your body wrinkles, people have rolls. Underpinnings make them smooth out. So, this woman came on and she said, I hate when fat women, I quote, want to make a Kranich gown. There are no underpinnings. You don't need anything. If you're thin, this will fit you fine. And guess what? I stopped making medieval clothes.
Aww.
So, I'm really big on underpinnings. And that story is like 25 years old, and it just makes my blood pressure boil now as a 43-year-old. I'll probably make a Kranich gown and dance around and like. But
I'll help you. Underpinnings.
So,
This evening, everybody should look for Victorian Secrets.
Ooh, that's right. Some
You
of
get
us
to
will
see
be.
her in her underpinnings.
You'll see my ankles.
What time is it?
At
7.
7.
So it could be a case of like, I don't like them, but like a girdle or Spanx could help if you really want to like hold things in place. But personally, I want to set all Spanx on fire. Girdles slightly better. Rather wear a corset every day of the week. Oh, God. So, just my 2 cents. Which was actually
it's easier to get into.
It's true. That was more like $5 worth of conversation. I hope it was helpful though. This is why I'm the problem child.
Part of the description for the panel was cosplay is not consent. So I want to talk about that a little bit.
Was there like a wild rash? This has been such a big thing at all of the cons.
So it's
Yeah.
with the popularity of the pop culture conventions like San Diego Comic-Con and Phoenix Fan Fusion and so forth, there's a lot more, it's become much more mainstream. And while the older or more established fan culture kind of understands that a costume is a costume, they're not dressing in a slinky outfit to entertain somebody. It's more as right. There's been a large number of people who have not either grown up or been kind of indoctrinated into fandom, who have been inappropriate at these larger conventions to younger women who are dressed as superheroes, who we know are drawn with interesting body shapes and
anime girls.
Right.
But it doesn't just happen to
No, and it doesn't just happen to women. It happens to men
men
too.
in kilts, men in tights, you know.
And so it kind of And there's always been somebody who has at some point crossed the line at a convention, and I wouldn't say every convention, but it has happened.
I would
But
say
that would
every
be
convention.
really.
I would,
Yeah.
I would
Yes, I
say that you may not realize it, but pretty much every convention, somebody
Yeah.
has been.
In helping run them too, you're like, wait, really? And
Yeah.
you see the, non-invitables back, and the, and whoever else, and it's like, well, that's sad, or that's
it's not even
unfortunate,
necessarily
and-
cosplay, but
Yeah.
there has been. But
Yeah.
the thing with the cosplay is not consent is no matter how little or risque somebody's costume may be, it does not give anybody permission to touch without consent. And that's really where that kind of came from. And because it's such a larger thing now, and younger populations have been raised, I think, with a lot more awareness about consent and public behaviors and things of that nature in larger gatherings. I think that's where we're starting to see kind of the ball rolling to let everybody know, look, this does happen. We need to be aware. It's probably not going to be you doing it or you, but everybody being aware means that we'll see it, and we'll a lot more often, and we'll be able to stop people.
And it's not just touching.
Right.
I mean,
No,
it's
inappropriate comments.
Yeah.
There have been YouTubers that will go to these larger conventions, especially where they know there's going to be lots of women in cosplay. Pretend that they're interviewing them for their video, and then their partner in crime does something or asks something or says something inappropriately, and some of them get caught and get kicked out, but a lot of times they're targeting younger people who probably aren't confident enough to really just say, hey, that's not right.
Or they're just new.
Yeah, they just knew this is their first time in a costume at a convention, and they, got separated from their friends, or they came by themselves, and then all of a sudden they're targeted by these people. So, and that I think happens at every large convention now.
Yeah, and the thing is, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I was going to say, I just think it's part of this journey that we're making as a society, because certainly back in the 70s when I was starting at work, a guy could make any comment he wanted and there would be no consequences.
Right.
And now there are consequences, and people actually are far less likely to say, oh, that's just, so-and-so, or, you're being too thin-skinned, or, just don't make a fuss.
I mean, that all still happens, but I think you're right, it's improved. And I would say the conversation, I think, might seem newer than it is, because the cosplay is not consent handle has been around for at least 7-8 years in the con community. It's just more and more visible.
I've just been costuming cons for 40 years, so
Yeah,
well,
that is
it's
recent to
more
me.
It's recent to
7 or 8
you,
years,
right?
yeah.
But
I hadn't heard it before either, but I like it. I'm glad.
yeah, it makes the rounds, and there was a video, 6-7 years ago, a really nice video series of a bunch of cosplayers promoting this idea that no matter what you're wearing, you shouldn't be shamed for it, you shouldn't be touched, you shouldn't be propositioned. I've been all of those things in costume, personally. And even recently, we were at an event in costume, and this was so fun. I was in my big bustle dress, and it's actually really hard to get to skin on my body because I'm wearing so much. And I wanted a seat because I'm with a cane right now. So there's this empty seat by a gentleman, or by a man. And I said, sir, is that seat taken? May I take it? He goes, oh no, you can take it. I really want to get a piece of that ass. And I was like, oh, well, I'm really desperate for the seat, so I'm just going to sit here anyway and pretend like that didn't happen. It's weird. Oh no. Did not stop there. that man actually burrowed as far into my skirt as he could, so he could actually grab my ass. Wow. It was at the TusCon Ballet.
His throat was right there.
I mean,
But
here's
trust
the
me,
thing.
if I had been present, I wasn't present.
But this is the thing. I'm damned if I do, damned if I don't. If I had assaulted him for grabbing my tush, everybody would have been like, Madame Askew beats people. Madame Askew has a thin skin. Madame Askew can't be appropriate in public. I'm hamstrung to what I can do. And I am also a representative of our costuming community at the TusCon Ballet.
And we were invited as guests.
Right, so I have to take a higher standard. So that is also part of the challenge as a costumer. You're much more on display and more visible than the people harassing you.
Well, and as an entertainer, there's a different level there as well,
Yes.
and people actually see costumed entertainers more as objects than people sometimes.
As a matter of fact, my husband was also,
Yes, same event.
same exact event, was also sexually harassed.
Those were just folks.
Well, I think the average person who does a costume would inappropriately leap to if they don't want attention, they shouldn't be wearing costumes.
I hear that from people in costume and out, yeah.
I think that's the default position of non-costume.
And that's part of
that's
the
part
There's
of
a
the
difference
movement
between
of-
attention and unwanted attention.
Right.
One of my favorite cosplays, especially at the larger conventions like Phoenix, is Professor Trelawney. And I do that because the kids give me that attention, and it boosts me, and they're having a great time. So yes, I am dressing in that costume for a specific kind of attention. But if somebody thought Trelawney was hot and came up and grabbed me, no, I'm not dressing in that costume for the whatever fetishes Trelawney fetishes.
Trelawney slash
Mystic.
fic?
Yeah. What is it? What's the rule for?
Oh,
anyway,
yeah, it's out there.
If it's out there, there's a porn for it. But
That's great.
But I mean, that's the thing is that yes, we may dress in costume to get attention in one way, but it's not an invitation for all attention.
Right.
And
Even if you dress
regardless,
provocatively, it's no still
right, regardless of what you wear, it's not necessarily an invitation for all attention.
And that's that part of the movement of, making people aware and then teaching the etiquette of costuming too, So not as it only just the consent portion, but the etiquette to it as well of, they're sitting down, you leave them alone. They're eating, you leave them alone. They're not up moving around, you leave them alone.
They're heading into the bathroom.
Like,
Please let them go.
I'm standing at this stall. Please do not talk to me.
Please don't ask me about my hat right now.
There's also kind of a strange social thing where giving someone a genuine compliment feels very personal, whereas saying something more offhand, it's kind of strange to say. I think that a guy might feel more comfortable saying, wow, your ass looks great in that skirt, as opposed to, wow, that's a very beautiful skirt. I can tell that you worked really hard on it. In a strange way, the latter is a more intimate conversation.
Well, yeah, the former is talking to an object. The latter is talking to a person.
100%. So, as a aside, we run a game called Compliment Dueling, which is very much about learning how to talk to people as human beings and respect yourself as a human being.
I have yet to see that one.
Oh my gosh. It's so good. If I do say so myself. But it's very hard for people to have that moment. You're right. It is more intimate. And frankly, as a redhead and a large-breasted woman, I have spent my life being objectified. So I'm really used to that sort of behavior. Doesn't mean I like it, but I know that they're just not looking at me as a human, which actually makes it less fun. And one of the things I really want in my costuming community, in my convention community, is knowing that I can be a human being here and not just an object, which is, I think, part of having cosplay for everybody, so that people feel like they are welcome to participate in the activity without being treated like, something that a random drunk fellow can just grab their ass. So great.
So do you think costuming or cosplay is not consent? Does that extend to photography as well? Or are people looking to take pictures with
Well, we've got a photographer with the thoughts.
Okay, one thing about cosplay, as I can say, in the terms of photography or professional photography, or any person like that is photographing it, one of the rules for a photographer is under no circumstances do you touch the model. There is a shit list going around, it's been published, of photographers who have stepped over the line and made passes at the models, they have touched the models, and they have raped them.
Oh yes, don't go to photo shoots alone.
Never, ever.
One of the other things is if you ever do model someone, it is perfectly acceptable to bring a companion. If a photographer needs some adjustment on the model, either the model does it, MAU makeup does it, or the companion does it.
If I'm friends with a photographer and they're like, your hem is kicked up, can I shift it? Then
Yeah, you never do it without permission, that's different.
Right.
I mean, if they come up and they ask for permission, but you always ask for permission first.
Absolutely. Well, and that shit list is also the kind of gives a definition between somebody who does photography as part of their living professionally and understands the models are human beings, and the creepy guy with the camera.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, one of the terms that's going around now is GWC, guy with camera.
Guy with camera. And it's unfortunate that it's always guy with camera, but I've run into some women who have said and behaved a little inappropriate when they're photographing younger men in smaller costumes.
Right.
But photography, there's a debate sometimes, but really basically, and this is just for anybody who sees a great costume, wants to take a picture. It's best to ask if they are seated, have they have a cool head, but they've got it off. If they're eating, if they're talking to somebody, wait. Or hopefully you can run into them again. But candid photos, a lot of times when they're not ready, because a lot of times, especially cosplayers at the big pop culture conventions, they're dressed as their favorite character. They want to get into position. They want to represent their costume in the best way. They put a lot of time and effort into it. So be respectful. Ask first. And one of the things that, and I brought this up the last time we did this panel, is be inclusive. So if you see a costume you really, really love, and that person is obviously with a group or another person who's also in costume but may not go with it, bring them in.
Or take separate pictures.
Right, or include them in some way. Bring them into that experience, because, and the reason I bring this up is I saw 2 amazing Disney cosplays at it was Phoenix Comic Con back then. One of them was Elsa, and the other one was Ariel. And Ariel had a little flounder on her shoulder, and she'd done a lot of work on it, but at the time, Frozen had just come out the year before, and everybody was getting Elsa's picture and completely ignoring her. That to me is it makes her costuming, her cosplay experience not fun at all, because she's put just as much effort into dressing up and playing a character she really loves, and her friend is getting all of the praise. And so yeah, when you see that, be inclusive, because it doesn't hurt. I mean, it's not film anymore. We got digital. You can take a picture of her, and then you can take a picture of her friend, or put them together. I mean, they were Disney princesses. You gotta have them together. So that's, if you're running around and you see a couple people or a group of people together, try and at least get a shot of them together. And also the guys with the big cameras, the people with the big cameras walking around. The best thing as a cosplayer getting a photo taken is when I get their business cards, so I know where the hell to find that picture.
And
I want to say one of the things is when you're dealing with a professional cosplay, a lot of professionals who do it, or even the amateurs, which I'm really amateur, I haven't stepped over the line professionally yet, they will give you a card, at least tell you where you can take a look at the pictures. As a matter of fact, one of the things that I've ran into with Wild Wild West is a number of cosplayers. Someone says, "Hey, everybody took my picture, but I haven't seen the front of them." So,
Yes.
I was very happy, not initially, but I ended up being very happy that someone from, I think it was the Phoenix New Times, gave me his card at Cyberton just after taking a photograph of me, because that way I could hand it to security when I left for the day and be like, pictures, where are the rules? Because he just like grabbed my arm and tried to reposition it. Didn't ask me, didn't anything.
Yeah, it's good to be able to have the name for a lot of reasons, right?
Yeah.
And I think
That's a really good point.
the costumer, the photographers, big cameras, who are on the up and up, will give you contacts or name, some way to know who they are. Obviously, people who are just there with their cell phones are going to be putting it up on their social media. You'll probably never see those photos. Or if you do, you'll be like, oh my gosh, that photo of me went viral. How exciting. Who was that random person who took my photo?
Yeah, it doesn't always work, but one of my friends was particularly proud of a costume they did for San Diego and actually made up cards with a hashtag and their social media so that whoever took photos could then tag them.
Nice.
It doesn't always work. Some people just upload and go, hey, I got this random whatever, or don't even say anything. They just upload all their photos or whatever.
Right.
But having that and being like, okay, this, did you like my Trelawney? Tag me on. Yeah.
Yeah, writing down what the costume is good.
Yeah.
This is an awkward situation, and I'm interested to hear all this because, as you know, Wendy, I work as an artist. A posed picture is absolutely useless to me. If I'm looking at a costume for art reference,
You need motion.
I need a natural motion. Often I need weird angles. I mean, the picture that comes to mind about, you were talking about Candid. Just a few days ago, I was going through some pictures I had taken at Gen Con, and what I had taken, somebody had elf ears on. And I had taken it from behind, which is an angle that's almost impossible to get right and look good. Ears are hard anyway. But all I really needed, I mean, I have no idea, I don't even remember if there was anything else to the costume. I'm looking at maybe a particular way the cloth falls, or ears, or a hat, how it sits exactly on her head. That I'm looking for something different than you as a cosplayer are putting out, but you are providing me something, and I have used it at like Ren fairs.
Yeah, you're looking at it. You're not looking at it as a public medium at that point. That's something to work on for your art. And I honestly, because I take candid photos at conventions in crowds.
Mm-hmm.
If they're up and they're moving around, especially like on a vendor floor or something where you've got like 15 great costumes in front of you, and it's like, hey, look at this crowd shot, and you might get just the right moment, or you might get something like that while you're doing that. But if you want to get the full costume, you
Yes.
should ask.
Yes, I agree.
And you're not going to grab them and move them.
Right,
because
yeah,
you-
you're not going to be like, oh, I need that ear, turn your head, you know,
Right.
whatever, but.
And I have worked photographing models, and it is hard. I've been fortunate over the years to have friends I can use, and I can say, let me drape that over your shoulder the right way, or whatever, and I am handling them. And it is a very weird mental set, because they become a doll. I mean, you talk about objectifying, I don't see them as people anymore. When I've got the camera and I'm looking for...
But you've already gotten consent to drape,
to work with
change.
them. Yeah,
You're not doing it without that.
No, and these are people I know. I mean,
Right.
I
It is definitely a different perspective on things. If you're, and I could see where you would see something at a convention where you're like, that would be perfect for a
pictures
thing.
of people's boots.
Right.
You know,
That would be perfect for a thing. I know I need boots and I've had a problem with this and your boots are perfect. Can I take a picture of them while you walk past? Or even if they're just walking past, they're not going to know you're using that for their...
Yeah.
But that's different. You're not uploading that to the internet.
And also,
I don't know.
Well, I mean, I think there's also this thing.
There are levels.
There are levels, right? I think if we go out in a public space, especially these days, at a convention, in crowds, some cons will even say, like, you're here, you consent to be in photographs as a blanket statement.
There's no assumption of privacy.
Yeah, there are going to be those group photos. I know when I'm taking a picture of someone in a costume, even if I've gotten there direct, like, hey, can I get your picture? I don't try and get the 50 people in the background. It's unfeasible. But I'm also, again, I'm not trying to get the creepiest shot possible of the 50 people in the background. And so there's a little bit about intent. And I do try, if I'm getting a person or a specific group of people, I like try and at least make eye contact and like show my phone and like head nod. And if they give me the head nod, then I'm like, take the picture.
Like, yeah, can I?
Right. Or if I'm like across the room, Stanley Ghost, Stanley Ghost. That was a recent one. A guy dressed as Stanley's ghost. I'm like, I need your picture. And he's like,
cool.
a million people are trying to get my picture. I'm like, great, I'll just jump in.
And that's okay too. If they're already posed.
5 minutes?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yes. Sorry.
This is a super short. It's not really a question. The funniest photo op I've ever seen at a con. There was a superb Darth Vader voice modulator and a bunch of Imperial guards walking down the hallway, and there was this half-assed Princess Leia slave girl walks up to him and says, "Can I get a picture with you? Can my boyfriend take a picture with you?" And Darth Vader looks down and says, "Anything for my little girl."
That's convention magic. It's so good.
Yeah, I have one other quick story which just happened back TusCon. One of the things I always do is if I photograph a child, I give the parent at least one shot. So I was walking through and this little kid, I don't know if it was girl or boy, dressed head to toe like a plant.
Oh,
Jumping
plants.
out and waving at him. And the parent was or dad was standing there, or his dad. So what I did is I had him move into him, and he actually put his arms around his kid. They took a picture. That was my favorite shot from that convention.
That brings up, just real quick, photographing kids. I never, ever upload a photo of a kid that's recognizable without the parents knowing I'm going to do it. I found out the hard way. I was at an SC event, photographed group scenes, kids there, find out later, the guy's an undercover cop. Can you please take these off the internet? So, yeah, because if they had recognized him in those images, she would have been in danger. So, yeah, always check if it's a cute kid. Hopefully, there's a parent around.
But like I said, I don't take pictures of kids unless the parents there.
Yeah.
And I always give them at least one shot.
Yeah, that's a really good plan. All right. I think we're done.
We've got 2 minutes.
Yeah,
2 minutes left.
There's
Any
one
questions?
aspect of inclusiveness that we haven't really covered, and that's more people of color.
Yes.
And we are starting to see them here, which I'm very pleased about. But how do we make everybody feel welcome in that way?
Well, I mean, we have to be open and engaging. I mean, that's how you get anybody to join, okay, is just to be open and engaging and treat everybody equal, and hopefully they'll feel comfortable. I mean, if we can provide an environment that all people can feel comfortable, doesn't matter what color you are, doesn't matter how large you are, how small you are, what type of physical ailments you have. If we can provide an inclusive environment for them and just be open and engaging and accepting, then they'll start to spread the word.
It's about letting them know that it exists too. You know, I always, when I introduce myself as I'm a closet cosplayer, because I didn't come out of the closet for cosplay until after I was married. And I was a jock in high school. I played sports. And all of my family read books and used imagination and did those other things. And I was like, please. And then I was like, oh yeah, Western and, fun things and dressing up. And yeah, now it's life. But introducing it, and saying, hey, look at this fun thing you can do. I teach, and so I put the Wild West Con posters up in my room. I put the Coco Con posters up in my room. I'll put the TusCon posters up in my room now. And those things, and it's like, hey, you can do this, and you can use these things. And I had a student go, Mr. Pike, you were on somebody's webpage, you and your wife. I was? Yeah, for some steampunk convention. Oh, yes, I was.
Here,
we
let me
were.
tell you about
Hey,
that.
Let's talk about that.
Well,
this is fun.
But the question about underrepresented groups, and I think the fundamental, and this goes way outside of costuming, is children especially, have a need to have characters and fiction that they can identify with. And if we don't consume that same representation, those people are not going to, the writers, the artists, they're not going to be made as mainstream, and they're not going to be as visible. So it's on us to make it more visible for these. There's some incredible stuff out there that still isn't getting awards and nominations, and the readership that it really should, and that representation needs to happen for people to be able to see it.
I will add one last thing, because I know we need to scamper. I make a point as a programmer to invite different people, because it's very easy to just invite the same faces. So when I'm out and I see a person of color, or an LGBTQ person, or someone with issues of mobility or other physical challenges who's doing cosplay, and they're articulate and they're passionate about their art, I invite them to be panelists on every topic. I don't just do diversity in cosplay panel and then don't include people. I think it's very important not only to be welcoming, but to invite people in. Yes. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks. Yes. Thank you.
Hi guys! If you're a fan of reading like I am, and you've been looking to try out audible.com for audiobooks, we have a link for a free 30-day trial. So go ahead and check out audibletrial.com/Creative Play and Podcast Network. That's Audible, audibletrial.com/Creative Play and Podcast Network. Thanks!
Thank you for listening to the Creative Play and Podcast Network. And feel free to enjoy our other shows, such as D&D Journey of the 5th Edition and Scion Ragnarok and Roll, a Scion hero to Ragnarok story. Thank you for listening.